Tale of the tape. How do these two teams match up by the numbers? We're going to get it all into it. We're going to talk about how these defenses play, how the offenses play, what their DVOA is like. That reflects who these teams really are. We're going to talk about all the numbers in this matchup on Sunday Night Football, 49ers versus Cowboys, in this episode of 49ers Cutback.
From the alley-oops at Keysar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way. From off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's going to be absolutely great episode as we start to gear up for the San Francisco 49ers versus the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. And I always like to go through the numbers and see how each team is playing. And the significance of those numbers is determined by what they actually mean as far as how they reflect in a game. But it also gives an overview. You start to find out what teams are really doing, where they're struggling, where you can find matchups that go one way or the other. And that's what we're going to do in this matchup, 49ers versus Cowboys, is we're going to find the matchups that are the best for the 49ers, that are the best for the Cowboys, and see if that coincides with what they got on the other side of the ball. So this is always one of my favorite episodes to kind of get a deep dive into each of these teams and their numbers and how they're playing during the season. So it's going to be a fun episode. And, you've got a couple of teams that have been pretty, up and down this season, and that's not the norm. These two teams would have came in, you would think they're Super Bowl contenders. And, of course, a lot of people say the Cowboys are pretenders. But, every year they're in the mix. They're getting to the playoffs. They're making some things happen. And so they're legitimate. And they've got Dak Prescott, and they've got weapons with CeeDee Lamb. And they've had a pretty good defense over the last few years. Of course, there's been some wholesale changes moving on from one guy to the next as they've had to adjust because Dan Quinn got a head coaching job in this league. But you get Mike Zimmer, so you still got a very experienced, talented defensive coordinator. And you still have Mike McCarthy. He has the legitimacy of the fact he's won a Super Bowl. So you've got the makings of a good football team. But you look at the record, and you see the 49ers at 3-4, and the Dallas Cowboys at 3-3. And the truth is, the Cowboys could easily be at 3-4 if they didn't already have their bye. So neither one of these teams are where they thought they were going to be. And this is 100% a must-win game for the 49ers. I would almost put the Dallas Cowboys in that category as well of must-win because they're chasing a couple of teams in their division that have the opportunity to pull away. Right now, the 49ers division hasn't pulled away from them. And so the Cowboys are in a unique position where they've got to keep track of the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, and you can't afford to lose to the San Francisco 49ers in this game coming out of your bye. So this is going to be hugely pivotal with what happens for both of these football teams. So I'm excited to talk about this matchup and in great detail. But I would like to ask all of you to please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Basketball fans, it's that time of the year again. The NBA is back from opening tip-off to buzzer beaters. Bet Online has you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. Bet Online is every stat, matchup, breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the game. And it's not just the NBA. Bet Online has odds on everything from football to the World Series to NHL to political props. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. So let's talk about these two teams as far as DVOA. And I think this one gets the best kind of idea of who these teams are because DVOA, it takes everything into account. Time of the game that scoring happens, time of the game of impact plays. It really takes into the full perspective and the unique way that they go about it takes out some of the mess and and some of the things that don't really matter in a football game. And that's what you get from their DVOA score. And you can see the 49ers are a top 10 team when it comes to DVOA, where the Cowboys are a bottom third team when it comes to DVOA. Definitely two different teams when you look at what they're doing on the field. And I think it's going to be echoed through the stats that we go through. Now, some of the stats definitely surprised me for Dallas. I think there's a couple of them that stand out as really positive things for this football team and things they might have an advantage over the 49ers in. And then the counterpart is also true. The 49ers have some that they have advantages, but I think this is a snapshot of who these teams are. 49ers have played better than their record says. The Dallas Cowboys are playing where their record says. So I think that's the difference between the two right now, but it doesn't mean coming out of a bye that Dallas can't turn this thing around. They have been marred by injuries. Now, it doesn't get any easier. You're not going to have Deron Bland. You're not going to have Micah Parsons in this football game. They have been ruled out. So that's going to change some things. Not like the 49ers are going to have Jawan Jennings either. So definitely injuries are playing a part into how each of these teams play, and that's going to be big for the defense. No Bland, who they've been rocking with the entire season without him. They've been getting some production from a young rookie, but he's been hurt. He should be back in this game in Kalen Carson. So we're going to see what Dallas can do, but overall, DVOA, they are at 23. Now you look at points per game. The San Francisco 49ers averaging 25.7 points per game this season. It's not what they were doing last year. Last year, they were pretty close to 30 consistently, especially early on in the season, where it felt like they were scoring 30 points every single week. So the offense hasn't been as productive, and a big reason why their red zone efficiency hasn't been what it's supposed to be. And that kind of makes sense when you're missing number 23, Christian McCaffrey, who was the offensive player of the year last year, and for good reason. He was a red zone monster. He was a guy that consistently got in the end zone and scored touchdowns, and the 49ers are missing that production right now, and that's an area they've got to get a lot better. Now, the good news for the 49ers, John Lynch went on KNBR and said he expects Christian McCaffrey to play this season, and everything about what Kyle Shanahan said in his presser this week, it looks like McCaffrey's probably going to be coming back for Tampa Bay, but that does not help them against this Dallas Cowboys defense. So they're going to have to find ways to get points. Look at the Cowboys offense last year, dynamic. You talk about a 30-point plus offense. Last year, they were doing it at a very high level, and they were scoring a lot of points. They had a good run game. They were able to find balance in the passing game, and Dak Prescott did a very good job. But this is not that offense. It's CeeDee Lamb and what right now when it comes to wide receiver. They've got some speedsters that they're going to be able to count on. Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert. Those are the guys that are going with. Brandon Cooks is dealing with a knee injury, an infection in his knee that's holding him out. So they are definitely looking for weapons. I'm sure they'll probably turn to their tight end as well, and Jake Ferguson. But when you look at this running back room, it's Zeke Elliott, it's Dowdle, but they're not getting the production that they really want from the running back room, and that's being kind of displayed when it comes to points per game. So 49ers not where they want to be. Dallas definitely not where they want to be. Both offenses need to be better than what they currently are. Now you look at yards per game. Both offenses are able to move the football. 49ers over 400 yards of offense per game. That's really good. The problem is the red zone. If they could figure out how to consistently score in the red zone with the way that they move the ball up and down the field, this would be an absolute elite offense in this league. But they have to be held accountable for the fact that they're just not getting it done in that area. But it's going to be a big part of this game is being able to hold on to the football, use the clock, and go ahead and win the time of possession. Whichever team does that is going to have the best opportunity to win because they're going to wear down the opposing defense. So getting the yardage necessary is going to be important for that reason. You look at Dallas, they're still doing a really good job, over 330 yards of offense per game. Not the production we've seen from them with the big-time weapons, but still pretty darn good. Now, run game is where you've got a huge advantage for the 49ers over the Dallas Cowboys. 49ers averaging 149 yards per game on the ground, and just last week it was over 150. Kansas City did a really good job against the 49ers run game and stifled it for the most part, and so you see that number reflected. But last year, just to kind of paint you a picture, they had over 140 yards per game with Christian McCaffrey at the running back position. This year, they're still averaging over 140 yards without Christian McCaffrey. So running game has still been effective. I don't feel like it's been as effective as the McCaffrey running game because McCaffrey finds holes and makes some key runs that normal people, normal vision just doesn't happen for. So I think he is unique, and there's a reason he's the offensive player of the year for that reason. But the 49ers have still had a good enough running game. Now, when it comes to Dallas, they just haven't. The running game hasn't been able to get going. And then you throw in the fact that they have been getting down early in football games, and then that kind of eliminates the running game. Now, we know Tony Pollard has moved on, so they don't have him. They brought back Zeke Elliott, and it's been a mixed bag for him. Dowdle has the speed to be able to do some things impressively and make some plays. But right now, they're not getting consistent production from this run game, and that's going to hurt them. They need to get a run game going against the 49ers and have a balanced attack if they're going to be able to win this football game. And for the 49ers defense, they know they want to come in, make this a one-dimensional football team, and put the onus on Dak Prescott and make him go out there and beat you. So everyone understands what this game is going to be, and a lot of it's going to be dictated by the run game, and the 49ers have a huge advantage when it comes to the run game. You look at pass yards, pretty identical. San Francisco 49ers averaging 254, Dallas 259. So they can still sling it. They can still make some plays. Now, of course, no Cooks, right? He's been out for a little bit now. That will play a part in this game. And the 49ers got to be able to deal with the speed of Turpin and Tolbert and just make sure they don't allow them to have the production that the Rams had with Tutu Atwell against the 49ers. You've got to be on your P's and Q's. Don't let anyone behind you and play very tough and physical. And I think that's going to be some of the key matchups in this game, how Turpin and how Tolbert match up with Renardo Green, Charvarius Ward, and Deommodore Lenoir, because we know that CeeDee Lamb's going to get a lot of attention from the 49ers defense, and they're going to try to limit his effectiveness in this game, make everyone beat him, which is exactly what they should do. But both offense are very proficient when it comes to the passing game. Now let's look at the quarterback competition. 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy, completion percentage at 63.9, so basically 64% right now. Not exactly where he normally sits at. He's normally 68 to 69, so it has fallen a little bit. His completion percentage, he's just not as accurate this season. Having to hold on to the football a little bit longer with the way defenses are playing the 49ers and some of the kind of mix-up in timing with some of his receivers. So it hasn't been as good of a completion percentage for Brock Purdy, but he's still been doing a pretty good job. And then you look at Dak Prescott, he's right there with Brock, 63.4%. So they're accurate enough to go out there and make some plays for the football team. But I would say neither one of these quarterbacks are having the year as far as precision passing that they believe that they were going to have. You look at yards, it's pretty close. Brock Purdy has played the extra game, so remember that when looking at yards and touchdowns and interceptions. And so, but Brock 1841 as far as yards, Dak Prescott 1602. So pretty close number. Dak's having a successful season, and I think it's reflected in those pass yards per game that we saw earlier. Now, when it comes to touchdowns, Brock Purdy 9 touchdowns, Dak Prescott 8. Pretty darn close, and you have the one game difference between the two. Interceptions, also the same thing. 7 interceptions for Brock. I know he'd like to take care of the football a lot better, and that's what his plan has got to be against Dallas, because you just can't turn over the football against the Dallas Cowboys and expect to win. And you look at Dak Prescott still making mistakes, 6 interceptions through the 6 games that they've played, so 1 per game. Brock in the same department, 1 per game as far as interceptions. You look at sacks, and Brock Purdy's been sacked 13 times, Dak Prescott 16, and that's 1 less game. So Prescott definitely gets sacked more often. They definitely have had an opportunity to get to him, and of course he tries to create with his legs. But I think you see a opportunity for the 49ers defensive line to get after Dak Prescott and get some negative plays, which could be huge for the 49ers. And for Brock Purdy, it was only 1 sack last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, and really that's because a guard and tight end tripped each other and fell down. So he's been able to avoid pressure when it does get in his face early, and the offensive line has held up in some categories and gave him opportunities. So it's been kind of, them working together to find opportunities to prevent sacks, but they want to keep the sacks down. They want to keep Brock Purdy upright so he can make plays. Quarterback rating, you've got Brock Purdy at a 91.2, and you've got Dak Prescott at an 85.5. So, both quarterbacks have enough to go ahead and get it done and go ahead and make some plays for their football team. And I think they can be excited about, what the quarterbacks are doing for these teams. Now let's look at offensive DVOA. The San Francisco 49ers are at a 9. I mean, they're still a top 10 team when it comes to DVOA, where the Dallas Cowboys are 26th. I mean, that is not very efficient and effective offense from Dallas. So the 49ers are going against a subpar offense, and they've got to take advantage of it. Their defense has to make sure they hold up against this Dallas Cowboys offense and just don't let them get going. Keep your foot on them and just make sure they can't get up. But 49ers still playing efficient offense, just hasn't been good in one area, really, red zone. That has been the real bugaboo for the San Francisco 49ers this season, has been in the red zone. You look at third down conversion percentage, the San Francisco 49ers are sitting at a 42% as far as third down. Not exactly where you want to be. For parts of the season, they've been as high as 46, 47%. Not anywhere near that right now. And you look at the Cowboys, they're at 41% right now. So neither one of these teams are where they want to be at when it comes down to third down conversion rate. They would like to be a lot higher, but that's going to be something they've got to work on. They've got to be better on third down if they want to be very effective when it comes to offense in the NFL and in this football game. But both teams will look to improve on their third down effectiveness and try to get better. And it's not like either one of the defenses normally do well against it. But the Cowboys defense, this is one of those ones that I said was very surprising to me, was you look at the Dallas Cowboys' effectiveness on third down conversions, and they're holding teams to a 33% conversion rate on third down. That is very, very good. You're talking Chiefs were 35%, and the 49ers have won against some tough defenses this year that have been very good on third down, but Dallas is right up there with them. My guess is, though, if you look at it, first and second down have been a lot more effective for opposing offenses, and they've created some good opportunities where they haven't had to go to third down. But Dallas Cowboys really good on third down. 49ers not. 49ers defense has struggled on third down this year. It got a lot better for a stretch, but it wasn't great last week against Kansas City, as reflected by this number. You want to get it below 40%. You want it to be where Dallas is at, quite frankly, under 35%. 49ers got a long ways to go to be better on third down, and that could be a huge part of this game. But Cowboys only convert at a 41%. So you see kind of the context there where Dallas's defense is very good against it, but their offense not as good. So can the 49ers defense hold up? The team that can get off the field on third down is going to have a really good opportunity to win this football game. Now let's talk about the red zone. The San Francisco 49ers offense scores touchdowns in the red zone at 45%. That's not good. The only thing that's crazy is you look over on the other side, and the Dallas Cowboys are the second worst team inside the red zone scoring touchdowns. You think the 49ers red zone offense has been bad, and it has this season. The Cowboys have been even worse. And so this is an opportunity for the 49ers to force field goals from Dallas and be able to get in the end zone themselves. So it's going to be a key part of this football game. How will the 49ers operate in the red zone? And it's not the 20 to the 10 that's the problem for the 49ers. They get first downs there. It's from the 10 in. And so they've got to find a way to produce inside the red zone. They need to go a lot higher than this. It needs to be closer to 60%. Last year, the 49ers were 68%, which was tops in the NFL. So even if they could get to 60% this season, I feel like they would feel they're scoring a lot more points. They're going to win more football games than they lose. Christian McCaffrey is going to be a big reason why, but that's still a little bit later down the season. Right now, they've got to figure out how to get it done with the tools that they have and the playmakers. I like that Kyle Shanahan ran the double pull quarterback sneak last week. I thought that was a nice wrinkle and some red zone creativity. Let's see what he comes up with this week. But you've got to find ways to score touchdowns inside the red zone. And if it gets to a situation where one team is scoring touchdowns, the other one's kicking field goals, then that team that's scoring touchdowns is going to pull away and win this game handily. So neither one of these teams really effective in the red zone scoring touchdowns. That's going to have to change if they want to win this game against the opposer. So you look at the red zone defense, and here's where the 49ers have another advantage. They actually are better in the red zone on defense than the Cowboys are. The Dallas Cowboys give up touchdowns in the red zone at 73%. So if you get in the red zone against them, you have a good chance of scoring a touchdown. 49ers not much better at 60%. But when you look at it, 49ers have a better offense in the red zone. Dallas has a worse defense in the red zone. You would feel like that gives you an advantage as an offense to be able to produce and get in. So 49ers need to win this category. They need to win in the red zone. So third down, we know they need to win. And in the red zone, they need to win. And the numbers suggest they have a good opportunity to do so. But Dallas also has an opportunity because the 49ers defense in the red zone hasn't been good. Their offense in the red zone hasn't been good. So this is not championship caliber football play in red zone right now. They both got to get a lot better when it comes to red zone play. Now, points allowed. 49ers giving up 22.6 points per game. That's not the best. Of course, some of those points, if you look at it, that's why their DVOA is so high as a defense, which we'll go over in a second, is the fact that they are giving up some points late in games. You know, some of it is situationally, it doesn't matter. You have a lead, you have a 2-score lead, like that sort of thing. But the 49ers defense hasn't been as good keeping people out of the end zone this year as they have in years past, and that's why it's reflected. Last year, they gave up close to 17 points per game. This year, it's 22. So it continues to rise a little bit. They've got to figure this thing out. I think a good offense and a good special teams could definitely help this defense a little bit, shave some of these points that they allow per game, but they've got to be better. And you look at Dallas, and it hasn't been good. They're giving up 28 points per game, 4 touchdowns a game for the Dallas Cowboys. That's not winning football. So both of these defenses need to rebound. They need to tighten it up. They need to make sure that they're not giving up as many points. For the 49ers, it's just over 3 touchdowns. For Dallas, it's just over 4. But you got to feel like the 49ers offense has an opportunity to get points this week against the Dallas Cowboys defense that gives up a lot. So the first team that gets to 25 will probably win this football game, which is very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. You look at defensive yards per game allowed. 49ers allow 318 yards per game. Dallas at over 350 at 356. So the 49ers defense has been more stingy as far as giving up yards and long drives, where the Dallas Cowboys have given up a little bit more. You know, it's one of those interesting things. The Cowboys offense, just over 350 yards that they average gaining, and then their defense gives it right back up. So 49ers a little bit different when you look at the numbers, but these are long, sustained drives that these defenses are giving up. Dallas more so. You've got to be better than that if you want to be a winning football team, and if you want to beat the 49ers on Sunday night. That will not be easy. You look at pass yards allowed per game, 49ers at 205, Dallas at 213. You know, pretty close to each other. Talked about this before. The 49ers are averaging about 30 yards too much that they're giving up per game. And a lot of that can be influenced by late games, right? You talk about the game against Seattle where the 49ers are playing a prevent style defense, allowing them to complete balls underneath, rallying to make tackles, to shrink the time and use the clock so they can win the game. That adds to the overall total and kind of inflates these numbers a little bit, just for context. But, still you want to be really good at defense. 175 yards you allow per game. You can see neither one of these teams that much over 200, which 200 is pretty good. And so good pass defense. And the Cowboys, why not? Right? You have Trevon Diggs. He's one of the better corners. They've been playing without Deron Bland, but still got talented players on the defensive side of the ball. But their pass rush hasn't been the same without Micah Parsons and without Lawrence as well. So those are big reasons. Here's a huge advantage for the 49ers. Even though the 49ers have been giving up too much yards on their end at 113 yards per game, they've had moments where they've played really good against the run. You look at the Jets game, played really good against it. The Seattle Seahawks game played really good against the run, and they were able to win those football games. Well, if you can play good against Dallas Cowboys run game, you can make them one-dimensional. They're not very good when it comes to rush offense. They average 77 yards per game. Huge advantage for the 49ers if they can slow down the Dallas Cowboys running game. Now, the problem is a weakness for the Dallas Cowboys is their rush defense. They give up 143 yards per game, and the San Francisco 49ers average 149 yards per game on the ground. This looks like it's a advantage 49ers. So we talked about third down being advantage Cowboys because their defense has done a pretty good job on third down. We've talked about the advantages in the red zone. Well, how about this? 49ers run game against the Dallas Cowboys is huge advantage for the 49ers. They have to be able to capitalize and make some real plays on the ground. Jordan Mason has to get carries. Isaac Guerrero, Deebo Samuel, whoever they call upon needs to be able to get positive gains. And I'm sure a lot of it's going to be Jordan Mason. But they need to turn this into a game where they rush the ball 30 to 35 times and absolutely wear down the Dallas Cowboys defense and get this number close to 150 rushing yards. that's their best opportunity to win. And for Dallas, they've got to try to stack the box and hold up against this 49ers running game. And if they on offense could get a run game going at all against the 49ers and take advantage of what is sometimes a tired defensive line late in games, well, then Dallas could be in this game and in this matchup. Well, let's talk about defensive DVOA. And this is one of the arguments that's tough for people is they look at some of the numbers. You know, we talked about red zone touchdowns given up. We talked about third down conversion rate, some of those things. But some of those numbers can be inflated by what happens in certain parts of the game. Or we talked about DVOA takes all that into account. And the 49ers have the 6th best defense as far as DVOA this season. And I think that kind of rings true for most. And it's been a very good defense. I think it's been not a great defense, but pretty good. I think I said very good, but I mean pretty good. I think there's a lot of areas they can still get better at, but they have their moments where they look really good. And they've been very good in first half of football games, being able to play tough defense. I think that has been something Coach Nick Sorensen's defense has done over the last few weeks, playing very good in the first half. Second half can sometimes get away, but really they've put themselves in position with a good special teams and a good offense. They probably would have won more of these games. They probably would have held teams to less points, but that's not the case right now. So you see it reflected in DVOA, but we need it reflected in wins, and hopefully the 49ers can put together complementary football to do that. Now, you look at the Cowboys, they're at the bottom of this, 29. So, 32 is as far as you can go. So they're not having success. You're talking about DVOA. You're talking about Cowboys offense sitting at 26 and defense at 29, where the 49ers are 6 on defense and 9 on offense. You can see the difference. So even though both teams have won 3 games, it has been different ways to win for each one of these teams in these matchups. So 49ers defense has definitely been a lot better than the Dallas Cowboys this year. They're going to have to go out there and prove it on the field. And one way you do is by creating turnovers or by not turning over the football. Well, guess what? Both of these teams have turned over the football pretty consistently this season. 49ers with 11 giveaways, Dallas Cowboys with 11 giveaways. I think the only thing that's more nerve-wracking for the Cowboys is that's 11 giveaways in 6 games, where the 49ers, it's 7 games. So 49ers have played an extra game, which means they've had more turnovers because they've played the extra game. So there could be an opportunity to get the football out of Dallas's hands and give Brock Purdy and the offense some extra opportunities. I think that's going to be a key in this football game. And Dallas has been a team, especially Bland and Trevon Diggs, and we know Bland's not playing, that have created turnovers consistently in Dan Quinn's defense. Now, Dan Quinn's gone, and with that, some of the effectiveness creating turnovers as they just don't do it as well. Right now, 49ers is still doing a pretty good job when it comes to takeaways. 2 interceptions of Patrick Mahomes last week. They've cost 13 this season through 7 games. So nearly 2 per game. That's really good for the 49ers. That's what you want to keep up. You want to make sure you're causing turnovers and giving your offense a chance to go ahead and have big plays after that. You look at the Cowboys, and they're not even averaging 1 per game. So it's not the same defense that we've seen in the past where they capitalize off turnovers. They just haven't had so many turnovers to capitalize on. And I think that's really been reflected in how they've played this season. So 49ers with a stark advantage when it comes to creating turnovers. And you look at turnover differential, 49ers at +2. You like to see this get to +10. That's when you're an elite team creating turnovers and not turning over the football. And how about this stat? The San Francisco 49ers under Brock Purdy are 14-0 when Brock Purdy doesn't turn over the football. That alone just proves if he plays a consistent game that he doesn't turn over the ball, the 49ers are going to win. So turnovers are a key stat for this football team. You look at Dallas, they're -6 with the amount of takeaways and then not being able to get takeaways on the other side. It has been a bad situation, and that makes for a bad football team. So the 49ers are +8 over Dallas in this matchup. You got to think that the team that wins the turnover battle, and I go through this every week, the stats that you must win: be better on third down, be better in the red zone, and be better when it comes to turnovers, and you're going to win the football game more than likely. Those are the categories the 49ers need to win in this game. Now, special teams has got to be the biggest advantage of the entire game for the Dallas Cowboys. They have the number 1 special teams when it comes to DVOA. The 49ers have the second worst at 31. So Cowboys, huge advantage. And we've seen the 49ers special teams haunt them in a huge way. I know it's getting close to Halloween, and it has been an absolute boogeyman for the 49ers. They haven't found consistency. It's led to bad mistakes, from fake punts to missed field goals to missed extra points to big punt returns and kick returns for touchdowns. It hasn't been good for the 49ers. And you look at the Dallas Cowboys special teams, and it is flawless with the way that it's coached. Phenomenal coach in Fossil. He does a great job. This is going to be a huge factor in this football game. 49ers special teams must, and I say this must in this football game, take care of the football. Kick every single kickoff out of the end zone. Do not allow Kevontae Turpin an opportunity to return. And if you have to punt the football, Mitch Wisnowski, punt it away from Kevontae Turpin. A punt that goes out of bounds is a successful punt this week. Just make sure you have a little bit of an opportunity to flip the field just a tiny bit, but it's more important this week to not allow him to return from Kevontae Turpin. And then when you get your opportunities, when it comes to extra points and field goals, Andres Carlson must win this week. You can't have the missed extra point like you had last week. You got to make sure you're consistent. So just don't make mistakes. Not even asking the 49ers special teams to make plays, which they have done, right? We've seen blocked field goals. We've seen them stop a fake punt last week against Kansas City. They've made plays. Now I'm asking them to just not make mistakes. And in this game, it's more about not making mistakes than it is making plays. If you get a big-time play from your special teams, you have a better chance to win. But this is going to be a huge matchup in this game, and the 49ers have not been good on special teams, and they're going to have to get a lot better if they want to play at a good enough level to hang with the Dallas Cowboys. So I think when you look at this matchup and you look at these two teams, you see that there are some things that the 49ers are definitely better at the Cowboys in. And I think you see some things that the Cowboys are. So what do we know about this matchup? The 49ers are going to plan on running the football against a Dallas Cowboys defense that gives up a lot of rush yards. And then when you look at the passing game, it's pretty even. So offensively, it comes down to the run game of the 49ers against a bad Dallas Cowboys run defense. And then it comes down to taking care of the football and winning the turnover differential, which the 49ers are definitely better at creating turnovers, but they've got to take care of the football this week. When it comes to defense, the 49ers have to keep CeeDee Lamb in check, and they have to make sure they're able to slow down that Dallas Cowboys rush offense with a 7-man box. They've done it consistently. Now they got to prove they can do it again. And if they can do that and they can pay attention to CeeDee Lamb, I think they're going to have an opportunity. But neither one of these teams are good in the red zone. Whoever ends up being better in the red zone is going to have a good chance. So that's the numbers. That's how it lays out in the tail of the tape. Let me know what you think. It's going to be a fun battle. I'm looking forward to it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. Of course, if you want all the breakdowns, head on over to Patreon. It's available to you, and it does a lot to help me out as well, so I appreciate it. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.